I spent 6 weeks in the MTC learning German because I didn't have any previous German experience. Like, I'd taken French in high school and then Spanish in college, and then I got called German speaking. So it seemed like a little bit random, and I would wonder, like, oh, why am I called German speaking here? Like, this is interesting. And it was, I think, like, mostly like for the visitor center is where I used it the most. And so learning German in the MTC, I really love learning languages. People sometimes would say, like, oh, is German a hard language? And I feel like it's like in the middle, because like you use the same alphabet just with some accents, and then the pronunciation's like a little bit tricky in some places, and the grammar is like a little bit more funky than we have. Like, there's some like different ideas than in English. And so other than that, like German, I would feel like not super intensely hard to learn. Like, I did okay, which was good. And then in terms of using it on my mission, one thing I noticed was sometimes it was hard to get the language study in, because our time as missionaries, like as a missionary is like pretty crunched, but we had like an interesting schedule with the visitor center because we had to divide our time between like our area and our visitor center time. And then sometimes we'd have shift in the morning at 9, which like cuts into your study time. So you're supposed to do it after, but if you had appointments, you had to like really manage your time well. But I noticed that at the beginning of my mission, on the days when I did a good language study, that sometimes like Germans would come in. So it was like the days that I studied, like I got to talk to Germans, which was kind of funny. And so they came in, like sometimes people ask me how much, but like it wasn't really like a steady rate, but I did talk to like at least like a couple Germans a month. And I'd wear my name tag, and then I would wear a German flag underneath my name. And so that, like, sometimes I would walk up to people and say, oh, where are you from? And they'd say, like, I'm from Germany. And it's like, oh, I'm learning German. That's what I would tell them. And I guess, like, one experience I had was speaking German. This was at the beginning of my mission. I got really frustrated with it because I feel like, at least it's this way for me, when I'm learning a language, you kind of like you feel like you're doing really well and like learning a lot, and then you sort of plateau and you feel like I'm not learning anything. And at the beginning of my mission, this group of Germans came in, and I was with my companion who spoke German, so that was good. But she was asking me this question, and I just had no idea what she was saying. And so I got really frustrated after she left, and I like went in the bathroom and cried just because I was frustrated about it. But then I would have other times when I would have like really good conversations with people. So I think it's just something you just have to keep working on. And I think like one of the experience I had that I treasure the most with speaking German was we, as Visitor Center Sisters, we worked in the Polynesian Cultural Center as well, which is a facility owned by the church. And it's for people to come and like learn about like the culture of Polynesia and just like have an awesome good time. So it's like a big tourist attraction. But we would go over there and we would offer to take people on a tram tour. So we had this bus that would drive them over to the temple, and we'd give them a little tour of the community. And so one day while I was over in the cultural center, just like standing, like telling people about the tram tour, there was this couple that I saw, and they were both super tall, and they were both wearing all white. So I just like remember that super vividly. But I talked to them a little bit, and I found out they were from Germany. And so I like spoke in German with them a little bit. And then the next day when I was on shift in the visitor center, I was kind of far away from the door, and I was talking to somebody else, and I just kind of noticed the man from the cultural center walked in, and I remembered him because he was like super tall, and like he saw me, and I made eye contact with him, and so I walked up front, and then we asked him like why he'd come, and he said that one of the sisters yesterday had like told him about it and invited him to come here. And so my companion and we talked to him for like 2 hours maybe. And she wasn't German speaking, she spoke English. And so it was kind of like this lesson that we had with him that was like mostly in German, but a little bit in English. And sometimes she would like ask a question in English and he'd respond in German. But he was just like his name was Frank, and he was from Frankfurt, Germany. And Frank he was in a phase of his life where he was starting to just like ask the questions, just like well, like, what's the point of money? Like, what's going to bring me happiness? And so we were able to share a lot about the gospel with him, which was a neat opportunity. And we gave him Book of Mormon in German as a gift. And so I think, and we always, in the visitor center, we always tried to get people's contact information so we could stay in touch with them or send missionaries. But like, Frank didn't want to leave his info, but he did take the Book of Mormon. And so I'm always just like, and I'm just like really hoping, I'm just like, somebody in Germany needs to find Frank. So that was something that was just like a precious experience for me that happened. So I did get to use the language.